Good morning or good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to You Matter. We're going to go into the life in my blackness, hashtag Black Boy Joy, and hashtag Girl Magic. And we have two phenomenal speakers that are going to be joining us in this segment. And I will introduce Ariana Levine, is a rising senior at Walt Whitman High School in Huntington Station. And this year, she put on a Long Island Unity March from Amityville Memorial High School to Cedar Creek Park in Seaford on Juneteenth, as one of her biggest passions in life is activism and justice for the Black community. Also joining us in this session will be Travis Nelson. Travis Nelson is a 21-year-old dual degree student at Columbia University from Hempstead, New York, whose work focuses on fostering civic engagement, civil and political rights, social justice, and community advocacy. At this time, let's receive them both.
Well, good morning, everybody.
Hi, everyone. I'm Ariana.
The introduction was very brief. I usually like it that way. As Dexter said, my name is Travis Nelson. Grew up in Hempstead, New York, and I'm happy to be here with you guys as part of this conversation.
And I'm Ariana. It was pretty brief, but yeah, I'm 16 years old, turning 17 at the end of the month. But I go to Walt Whitman High School, and I'm going to be a senior this year. And I'm really excited to talk to you guys today. And yeah, I guess we'll get started.
Yeah. Well, is there a specific question you wanted us to go off of, or just speaking in terms of the conversation around the topic?
Yes, just speaking around the conversation around the topic.
All right. Well, life in my blackness. I think I can definitely start and be the first to say that it's a very multifaceted and layered thing to be a Black person in the United States as well as anywhere around the world, but specifically here. The history of the United States is the history of race relations. For the last couple of centuries, our country has battled and fought to try and understand how to deal with the Black population, to be quite honest. And it is one of the truths that we have not realized within ourselves, that the country never really knew what to do with its Black population. And so you see a lot of the policies that were created separate but equal, so that we don't have to understand what's on the other side, so that we don't really have to deal with it. We can keep ours, and by keeping our society and what we think of as the state, everybody else on the other side, we can ignore the issues over there, the inequities, or I mean the inequalities and the challenges. And so that was one of the hard things that made life at all hard for any Black person in the United States. Moving anything forward from that, I think when you think about life and your Blackness, you think about the constant words that come up, the struggle, or the heightened mortality, or the different things that just get attributed to our community. But your lives, how you structure them, how they play out, really is in a huge part still up to you. I think a lot of times a lot of times what's been difficult to understand is while there's so many other forces pulling you to be this, pulling you to be that, pulling you to be this, you know, you still have the opportunity to be whatever you want to be. And I see some questions coming in the chat box. So Ariana, I don't know if you want to pick up after that, and then we could, possibly answer some of these
Yeah.
questions.
So, as a Black girl, and not even just Black, I was a Black person in America during this time with everything that's going on, it was hard to just, sit back, signing the petitions, calling the lawmakers and trying to get things changed. And, being only 16, being only a teenager, there wasn't much that I thought that I could do, only like protesting. And, there wasn't much that I could do and feel safe in my own skin and leaving my house, especially with COVID-19 going around. But, with my own efforts, I definitely feel like with creating the Long Island Unity March, it was one of the biggest things that, I have ever done. And my mom, she's an activist. She's constantly doing marches and stuff like that. And so, I'm always there kind of like in the background, like, helping like set stuff up, but I'm never the one putting on the show, and with everything that's going around, with Ahmaud Arbery and George Floyd and Breonna Taylor and Tamir Rice and stuff like that, they need justice. And love to say, not love to say it, but like, you can't just let adults make all the decisions for you. This is the next generation, and I'm a part of this next generation. And I want people younger than me. I want the middle school kids. I want anyone who's younger than me to see that you don't have to be an adult to make a change. You can start at any age. There are 5-year-olds doing this. There are 6-year-olds. There are really young children doing this. And I just want everyone to see that you don't have to be older. You don't have to be an adult. You don't have to be in college. You don't have to, have a 9-to-5 job. You can be in high school, middle school, elementary school, and make the change that you want to see, because it's our future and it's something that we have to work towards, and to see, the decreased number of Black lives being lost.
Great. So there's a few questions that we wanted to ask you to, and you can just jump in and feel free to answer. What has been difficult for you during this process? What have you found difficult? You spoke about the whole COVID and being locked in, and then of course the whole George Floyd movement. So how have you been able to adjust during these times and still be vocal about your life mattering in moments like these?
I
Well,
guess for me personally, what's been most difficult has definitely been, since I'm still in school, online learning was extremely hard. Transitioning from the classroom to online was really hard. And then also, not seeing my friends and everything. But I feel like the bigger picture here with what was going on was making sure that I got out and protested and, did it safely, wore masks, had hand sanitizer and gloves and everything. So I feel like that has been the most difficult for me, and definitely seeing the things that were going on around me in my own community. Just like literally like an hour away from me in Valley Stream, there was a woman who was not who was being antagonized by her neighbors, and she was like being victimized and everything, and she wasn't safe in her own community, and it was right on my own home, right on Long Island in Valley Stream. And I feel like it's hard to just sit back and watch that stuff go on in my own community.
Travis?
yeah, I think what's been hard for me um, was just the level of contempt that I saw. Um, I remember very personally, shortly after George Floyd passing, I don't know what it was, because it's not, sadly, like we haven't heard of these situations before, but I think I just broke down crying, with my mother, and not for anything other than the fact that here was another Black person dying once more. But it was the graphics, the imagery of the video, the videos we get so tired of seeing, to be honest, of not only this person with his knee on his neck, but this person smiling as he did it. this other officer in the distance, just watching, basically as this happened. And so I don't think I handled it well, but I think that's part of the reason why we're here today, because it prompted us into this action and into saying that this can't continue anymore. And that's basically the message of what's happening right now, that this can't and it shouldn't continue, because there's no way that we can continue to exist and continue to live in a country that clearly shows they have no level of respect, remorse, or care for Black and brown people.
Absolutely. And so both of you have had the opportunity to put together your own protests. I've marched with Travis a number of times within the last few weeks. So my question to you all would be, why did you do a protest, right? And what urge you specifically? There were so many going on. You could have just joined in with somebody else. You could have marched with your school, marched with your different organizations out there. What made you to say, you know what, I want to have my own protest because of X, Y, and Z? So can you share a little bit about why you chose to do a protest, and then also give us advice to other young people who want to get involved? How do you get involved, with protesting and different things like that?
Well, I know that what started me to, do the protest was I was losing a lot of friends very, very fast. And I was realizing that there were so many people who I thought were my friends, but hadn't spoken up about the Black Lives Matter movement whatsoever, weren't posting on social media, signing petitions, calling lawmakers. They weren't doing anything. And, I realized that they weren't for me. And so I was losing a lot of friends very fast. And so I started kind of letting people know that, there are these people and they just don't care. They don't care about Black lives whatsoever. And I would do like these Instagram lives where I would talk about, what was happening in society and what was going on and what people could do to help. And a bunch of my friends were saying, oh yeah, why don't you do a protest? And I was like, at the school. And they were like, at the school, yeah. And I was like, that's at school. I don't know if I want to do that. So then I brought it to my mom and she proposed the idea since Juneteenth was coming up. And if you don't know what Juneteenth is, it's the last day that the slaves were freed from the Confederacy in Texas. And so I kind of had the idea, my mom and I, of doing a protest then, and doing a march from Amityville to Seaford, which was about like 5.3 miles. So, I felt like my friends really had pushed me to do the protest and do the rally and march just to celebrate Juneteenth as a whole, and also, celebrate the lives that have been lost and get justice for them. And to answer the question, what can you do to, protest? Use, like someone said, use social media, talk to your friends, try to organize. Even if it's the smallest thing in the world, it still matters the most. I've had people reaching out to me since I put on my march asking for help. Ask people who have done marches for help. Ask adults, ask other teenagers. It never hurts, because the worst they can say is, oh, not right now, and then you can work from there.
Great. Travis?
I'd say for me, kind of to what you said, I've been involved with a lot of protests, organized with a lot of different groups. And to be quite honest, for a lot of the groups on Long Island, I didn't like how it was going. It was sloppy, wasn't as organized as I think it should have been. And that's my strongest criticism of the fact. And in my opinion, that was because there was a clear lack of organization and leadership, as well as people who had the demonstrated ability to organize. And so, while it was great people were taking to the streets, if people are just taking to the streets with no sense of common purpose or vision, rather than a collective of people marching with a goal. It's a group of individuals marching to make noise. And so I felt as if it was important to do something. And if you're going to do it, make it be the standard bearer for everything else to happen afterwards. And so I saw that Flag Day was coming up, and considering the protests, um, the briefing they had had on Capitol Hill, as well as the reforms that were getting ready to be passed in the New York State Assembly and Senate by those bodies, I said, this is a moment where we have a chance to not only demonstrate, but demonstrate on a day of specific importance to the United States. Our flag is very important to us because it stands for all of our ideals, the idealism of America, freedom, justice, liberty for all. But what we're seeing is that people are saying, and people have experienced, us, our people, that those ideals are just that. They're not actually our reality. And so my demonstration, in fact, was to kind of be a proponent that we really have to push, the idealism of America and the reality of America into greater alignment. And so that's why I did what I did. I went from Hempstead Transit Center because it's one of the biggest intermodal centers and transit centers in Nassau County. Hempstead itself is one of the most densely populated villages in Nassau County, as well as one of the most sadly despondent. And then I went to the Nassau County legislature because I thought it's so much power to go from the village, sadly, that's always pushed to the side, pushed in the back of people's minds, to the biggest law making body in our county, right next door, and show them, not only do Black Lives Matter, but we matter, that the people will make a statement and that you will have to recognize us. And as we walked, for all of those, I'm pretty sure everybody on the call is familiar with these protests, we passed that invisible barrier, right by, as you pass, the car dealership, and you step into, that section of like Garden City, Mineola, and we saw what we always see every day, stepping into two different worlds. And that is a reality that is unacceptable. That is something that we cannot continue to just be okay with existing. And so I think that route, the symbolism of the day, and just everything that I had seen really came together quite nicely, but also is what prompted me to say, in the words of John Lewis, who sadly passed this morning, if not me, then who? Not now, then when? If you feel as if you can do something to change or be an agent for change, you have a responsibility to do that thing, not for yourself, but for others, and only for the sole reason that you can. And that by you doing that thing, you can contribute to something greater.